Hey, good day to you. This is Todd. I'm just a regular dude walking in the Word. Thanks for joining us as we are going through the book of Matthew right now. We're in chapter 26. These 2 days, this is the second of 2 days here. I know sometimes the stuff I says, it's like, well, why are you saying that? We talked about yesterday Mary and how she was extravagant in her giving and poured this perfume upon Jesus. And the disciples were like, why did he waste that perfume on Jesus? It could have been given to the poor. And Jesus said, you're always going to have the poor with you, okay? And the thing is, you're going to see too that, these disciples were making a big deal about the poor and like, oh, this could have been given to the poor. That still happens today. The people that are complaining about, like, the church will, do something to help the poor, or you will do something to help the poor. And they'll be like, oh, no, that should have been done better and done this way. And I act all pious and everything. And when you look at it and you're like, what are you doing for the poor? And you're like, well, I support the government, which does this program or something like that. They personally are not doing a whole lot for the poor. They're just complaining about it, okay? And Mary steps up here and she just gives what she has to Jesus here. Today we want to talk about Judas. And Judas, this is taken from Matthew 26:14 to 16. And in this passage here, you're going to see Judas is driven by greed. We saw yesterday how Mary was driven by for the love of Jesus, okay, and was giving what she had to Jesus, okay, that perfume, and pouring it out upon him. Okay, but then you have Judas, and he was the one leading this opposition against what Mary did, and saying, "Oh, why would you waste that?" And come to find out, he wasn't. He was saying, "Oh, you could have given that to the poor." He wasn't supporting giving to the poor. He was actually stealing out of the money that should have been used to give to the poor. Okay, so he was driven by greed. Let's read here today Matthew 26 verses 14 through 16, okay? It says this: Then one of the 12, the one called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and asked, "What are you willing to give me if I deliver him over to you?" You notice Judas went to them and asked, "What are you willing to give me?" Okay? Oh boy. So they counted out for him 30 pieces of silver. From then on, Judas watched for an opportunity to hand him over. What I want you to see is this: the amount that he was given was not a whole lot. It'd be worth like maybe $25 today. Okay, it wasn't a whole lot. We had talked about in parables just last week, the parable of the talents and how much that was like, a lot of money. And Jesus is talking about that. But here, Judas gives up Jesus for just a little bit of money. Okay, and the silver, the 30 pieces of silver, if I remember correctly, is the same amount that if you had an animal that was constantly goring people, a bull that was goring people and harming them, and he killed a servant, that's what you had to pay to the slave owner for the price of that servant, because your bull killed that servant of his. And so it wasn't a whole lot that he did that for, but greed was controlling him. Okay, so I wanted you to see in these past 2 days here how we first of all had Mary, and Mary was committed. She was giving what she had to Jesus. She was a giver. Okay, Mary was a giver. Remember that. You had Judas, and Judas was controlled by greed. Okay, you have to ask yourself, which one are you? Okay. There's different times in your life when you can identify with Mary, like, oh, I'm a giver, I do this, okay? But then you can also say different points in your life too. Man, I'm greedy, okay? And I do these things for myself because I want, more stuff for myself, okay? And the disciples themselves were guilty of this. It says the disciples, when we were talking yesterday about Mary, it was the disciples who raised the uproar, okay? Mostly led by Judas. With this whole thing. But it was the disciples who were also greedy at this point. But most of all, Judas. Okay? So look at your life. Are you characterized by giving, or are you characterized by greed? Okay? something for you to think about today. Thanks for watching. I'm just a regular dude walking in the Word, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow as we continue our journey through the book of Matthew. Lord's blessing. I'll see you then.